You know what I really hate about my game? No, I mean really hate. The animations. I mean, talk about stiff. On top of that, there are not that many animations. If you look at the latest livestream summary video, you really see the creatures making the same animation over and over again. I try to hide it a bit with different camera angles, but the true solution is of course to add much more variety.
So let's first look at my new approach and then at the 4 types of animations I'm improving with this approach.
For those of you new here, this is evolution simulation game The Sapling, my solo indie game project. There are scenarios tasking you to design an ecosystem that meets specific requirements, but there's also a sandbox where you can build your own algae, plants and animals, turn on random mutations and see how they evolve.
Last week I already told you that the best way to improve the overall quality of something is to shorten the iteration time. Then it was about procedural walking. This week it's about all other animations.
The important bit here to realize is that I cannot just load a creature in Blender and animate it until I'm happy, because I don't know yet what the creature that will actually play the animation looks like. I mean, I can make a creature's left hind leg move, but perhaps some of the creatures that will play this animation don't have hind legs. Or legs at all. So instead, in Blender I define a generic animation where I specify things like this movement applies to all left legs, and the animation specializer translates these generic instructions to all matching body parts, in this case all left legs. So far, when I had created or updated an animation and I wanted to test it in the game, I had to make changes to the export script inside Blender, run that script to actually export the animation, update the code for my little in-game animation viewer, wait for this to compile, run the game, find the animation in a list, and finally play it.
So these 7 steps is why the game has so few animations and why a lot of them look so primitive. So I challenged myself to bring that number as close to 0 as I could. And I'm proud to tell you, I did it. All the way to 0.
Because apparently in Blender you can run code each time a change is made to an animation. So now the animation is exported on the fly, already while I'm working on it. And the animation viewer now has hot reload functionality, meaning it continuously looks if any of the animation files are updated and reloads the animation if so. So whenever I make a change in Blender, if I switch to Unity, the animation is already playing there.
This way, testing a new animation idea is no longer a time investment. In fact, I don't even think about it anymore, I just try it. My iteration speed is through the roof, and this has resulted in all kinds of new animations. For this video, I want to highlight 4 of them. Idle animations, water surface swimming animations, underwater swimming animations, and flying animations.
Starting with idle animations are weird when you think of it. You don't want a lot of movement because the animal should be doing nothing, but you do want some movement because otherwise the player will think the animal has frozen or glitched out or something. To get the balance just right, I did an extensive study of Planet Zoo, which is of course full of high quality idle animations for all kinds of animals. The result was that most movement was in body parts that I so far didn't use at all when creating idle animations, which are the tail and the ears. So here we go. Swimming animations have always been the place where the game has had most variety. Already in the Sea and Sandbox update, where swimming was added, I included 4 movement styles based on the type of fins. The default horizontal movement, which can even become snake-like depending on where the side fins are, paddle swimming for land animals, vertical fin movement for aquatic animals evolving from land animals, and a swimming style using modified wings. Now that it's so much easier to create animations, I want to add 3 more. The first is actually to fix my incorrect assumption that all animals with fins will use their tail to create speed. Right now, if you leave out the tail fin, it will look strange like this. In real life, there actually are a few animals that don't use tail fins. Plesiosaurs, for example, are thought to have mainly used their flippers, and let's not forget about turtles. It's not unlike the wing-based swimming style, but more laid back. So in this new update, for aquatic animals the game will first check if there is a tail fin. If so, it will check which tail to decide whether the movement should be horizontal or vertical. If there's no tail fin, it will check for special body parts that have their own swimming animations like the wings, and I will introduce 2 more. Otherwise, it will check whether it needs to show the generic fin-based fallback animation or the land leg-based fallback. The second new swimming animation is jet propulsion, pumping out water as if the animal were an underwater rocket. This is seen in animals like octopuses, jellyfish and nautiluses. The tube-like structure they use for this, called a siphon, is hard to see, so to make it a little clearer what is happening, I made it so you really see the organ swell. Finally, my favorite one is undulating movement like we see in stingrays, and also in squid, but they don't use it to create speed. In this Blender setup you can see how I did it, with 3 bones that each control a different part of the same fin. They all make the exact same up and down movement but with a slight delay, creating this wave-like movement. Interestingly, there's nothing about this animation that forces the 3 bones to control one fin, and we actually know about an animal that probably swam this way but with separate fins. Very convenient for me, because now I can reuse this same animation for a body part in the arthropod branch. Okay, so we've seen idle animations, underwater swimming animations. How about swimming at the water surface? So far I've only reused underwater swimming animations at the surface as well, but there are of course a few cool things I can do here, like these guys. And squid, of course totally unrelated, do it too. I have long felt this kind of movement was perfect for the game, as it feels like speculative evolution, but actually does exist on Earth. And not only that, there are 2 known fish from the Mesozoic that are also very likely to have used this kind of movement while being completely unrelated to modern flying fish. The animation is really simple here, just spread the fins as if they are wings. The hard part is that the animal needs to go up and down as well. Fortunately, the math for this was already solved for animals jumping from tree to tree, so I could reuse that code here. As you can see here, the arc is relatively high. Real flying fish often float much closer to the water surface, but I wanted to make sure that the player can see the animal well enough. Oh, and of course I already quickly showed you last time the water strider legs. This is not really a new animation, I'm just reusing the primitive mode of the procedural walking system. Still, didn't want to leave it unmentioned here. For real flying, of course, the first thing I did is improve the animation. But here too, like swimming, I'm moving away from the one-size-fits-all approach. As many of you already guessed, the new insect legs also mean insect wings. And when I was modeling this, I was sitting outside on a beautiful long Dutch summer evening, and several houseflies actually landed on my laptop screen. Some painters always recreate nature that's right in front of them, but this was a first for me.
I should add that, according to my 2 favorite paleontology channels, insect wings probably did not evolve from insect legs. However, in playtesting sessions I can see that for players it makes a lot of sense to have all movement-related body parts in one tab. So, for gaming experience reasons, I'm going with the less popular hypothesis that insect wings directly evolved from insect legs.
Speaking about YouTube channels, for the animation, a YouTube channel named AntLab was a huge help, as it contains numerous videos of insects flying in slow motion. Really cool. I've used it for this new high frequency wing movement flying style, but also for this strange fluttery one. As a small aside, these new wings also bring new sounds to the sapling. This wing adds a new noise for animals to make, like how adding a rattle tail allows an animal to make noise. One of my favorite sounds in the world because it reminds me of summer nights. These wings actually play sound during flight, which is new. The pitch changes depending on the size of the animal. The final new flight animation is more passive, inspired by things like hot air balloons or sky lanterns, and is often seen in speculative evolution works. It requires a planet with lower gravity, which is by the way also a new feature. Besides the slider, I'm also showing the gravity status of the planet by making it smaller and larger. I'm not 100% certain about this because it does not influence actual map size, which might confuse players, but we'll see. Simulation wise though, it's easy enough. The only places where weight matters is whether a limb can carry the weight of an animal, and this is now simply multiplied by gravity. For extra clarity, the warning message "this animal is too heavy for its legs" has now been extended with for this planet, which somehow makes this mechanic feel way cooler to me. For the animation, this time I of course did not have real life slow motion footage to study, so I went with what felt best to me, a bit of random drifting in the wind combined with dangling legs. So these were the 4 main groups of animations that I've been working on, but before we end this devlog, there's one new bonus animation that I want to share with you all, dying. So far dying stuff just popped out of existence, which was a bit weird, so as of this update they will do a quick animation. Also, instead of popping out of existence, there's now a quick fade out. It was quite hard to get the timing right, because when an animal dies, it should first wait for the current walking or idle animation to be finished, then play the dying animation, wait until that's finished, then fade out, wait until that's finished, and only then hide the animal from view. Obviously, while the animation is just for animals, I'm using the fade for algae, plants and fungi too. It's kinda weird to think about. This update started with me wanting to fix some animations, but what I ended up fixing was my tool, my ability to animate. Animation has now become a playground, a way to explore how player-created life might move. That is, if it moves.